Good morning, everybody. I am Rachel from the Academic Advising Office. Lovely to see you all, and thank you all for registering for this workshop. Can you all hear me? Yes? Okay, great. So now this is the first typhoon day that AAO had ever organized a workshop. And we are very, very grateful for your time. And then we understand that all of you have reserved time for this workshop out of your very busy schedule. So we are doing our best not to let anything affect us. And one more consideration is that the students will be receiving an reminder through their portal to seek advice starting next Monday, that is right after the reading week. Therefore, we think that this workshop is really in time so that we could all do some preparation before students start contacting us next week. Okay, so it will be for the one whole week. Okay. Okay, so now let me get started. Now, oh, by the way, this session will be recorded. So for colleagues who could not make this morning, don't worry, we will send the recording to them later on. Okay, so some background. Now, AAO is a team under the registry, and we are set up to develop and implement the university academic advising system, which was actually set up 10 years ago. Okay, now, but since then, the system have developed and evolved so that there are a lot of things being having been changed and enhanced. So we hope that in today's workshop, we will be able to share with you the latest situation and feature of the system, as well as to share with you some tips, information, and experience so that you could better prepare for your advising task. Okay, so today we're going to have 3 parts. So in part 1, I will give you a overall view of the system as well as some general advising tips to advising. And in part 2, we are very, very pleased and grateful that Dr. Matthias Buehlmaier from the business school has accepted our invitation to join us today to share his experience as a faculty academic advisor. So we really look forward to Matthias sharing. And after that, we will have a quick Q&A session before Matthias leave, because he has another engagement. And part 3, we will have our colleague Nelson, who will demonstrate to you about the system's feature, as well as some new resources that we have developed for students as well as advisors. Okay, so now for the benefit of our new advisors, I will do a very quick introduction of our system. Okay, let's move on to the next slide. So this is the 4 component of the university advising system. Okay, so here there are the faculties, the halls, CEDARs, as well as academic advising office. And in the next slide, you will see that actually there are more people and colleagues playing different roles to support students in their university journey. Okay, for instance, in CEDARs, we will have counselors and clinical psychologists, as well as student advisors in different areas, such as careers, campus life, internship, etc. And in halls, we have wardens, residential tutors, as well as some senior students, hall residents, who will serve as peer advisors to their hallmates. And from the faculty side, we have 3 major kind of advisors. So we have teachers, most of them serving as faculty academic advisors. Some of them also serve as temporary academic advisors. And we also have senior students. They are the faculty student advisors. They are actually the counterparts of the RSA. Okay, so in the next slide, you will see actually that we have quite a lot of teachers and students, okay, in the team to help our students navigate their university journey. Okay, so we have 1,200 teachers serving as faculty academic advisors in the 10 faculties. Okay, now basically their role is to advise home faculty students, okay, about their studies, okay, especially the year one student in the study related matters. And if they have questions that they do not have the answer, they can make referrals to different units in the university. And temporary academic advisors, they are also teachers from different faculties, but they are assigned the role to advise home and non-home students about the subject or about the program. Okay, so their relationship with the students in terms of giving advice is 90 days. Okay. And faculty student advisors, now the students, they are playing an increasingly important role in our advising system. Now, right now we have over 400 senior students from 8 faculties helping us to provide peer support to our students. Okay, so next slide. You can see that actually the mandatory requirement for year one students to meet with their faculty academic advisors at least once a semester in the year one have been removed 2 years ago. And that actually allows the faculty to make a suitable arrangement for the teachers and to students to provide more effective and appropriate support. And the faculties advisors, they have to assign one regular office hour as student consultation hours per week. Okay. And as for the students, they are encouraged to see their faculty academic advisors for support and advice in their study whenever they need them. And in particular, we have been doing since 2 years ago, okay, pop-up portal reminders after the reading week and after the release of grades to remind students that they can seek support from their advisors so that they can navigate their studies in a more effective way. And in spite of all these, okay, we are very conscious of students who might be struggling with their study. So we also have this early alerts mechanism in place. So what exactly does it mean? Actually, after the release of grades per semester, we will run a list of students whose semester GPA is below 1.5, okay, as well as advise students with a semester GPA between 1.5 and below 2.5, but with a sudden drop of 0.7 grade points from the previous semester. Okay, so we will alert the faculty about these students who are might be having trouble with their study, and then the faculty will alert the FAA so that appropriate attention will be paid to these students to give them support if needed. Okay, so from previous workshop and from the sharing of the colleagues, we noticed that the transition to university learning seems to be posing the greatest challenge for students, especially in the year one. Okay, so a lot of year one students would be like feeling lost or overwhelmed simply by the new environment, for the information overload, and even not knowing where to get support. And also, one very important thing is that they have this sudden freedom to schedule their own timetable. And some of them find themselves spreading too thin from within and without classroom activities. So also some students are shy to ask questions, and somehow if they are really having trouble with the study, then the support that they should be getting will be delayed, and this could lead to other situation like drop in interest, drop in study motivation, as well as procrastination, etc. Okay. And so actually there are many very helpful support services on the campus that the students may not know. So we think that instead of making it like a treasure hunt, why don't we put them all together in one place so that students could find them and get the information easily and in a more systematic way. So what you are seeing on the slide here is a roadmap that we have designed. Actually, you will see that the roadmap depicts a typical 4-year study program. However, we have put in all the information like significant experiences, important milestones, key schedules, deadlines, and officers responsible for those activities, etc. and etc. And we make it into like a bus stop. So as the students hop on different bus stops, they will be able to see the advice, information, useful links, as well as sharing from our student advisors. So a lot of stories that they could draw a reference to. Okay, so I would encourage you to share this roadmap with your students, advisees, so that they could plan ahead and they know where to get support if needed. So here is a QR code, and feel free to download them for your use in the future. Okay, now actually from my experience, every student is unique. Now some students, they will take very constructive action after meeting with you. However, some students tend to be more relying on you. So they will email you every single step and ask for your advice. But some students will simply avoid you. Okay, so what I'm thinking is that how you conduct your advising meeting actually can build a foundation of a very fruitful and effective advising relationship. Okay, so here is some very general tips that I would like to share with you. So the first one is that you need to let them know your role and expectation. Now, tell them what you can support and what you expect them to do. For example, they have to do their research, they have to find information, and eventually they have to make the decision. But do stay firm but friendly. Okay, so next is that get to know your advisee. I found that it is very useful to let them talk about themselves, because this is what they know best, and that would also help them relax as well. Okay, and thirdly, question and wait for their answers. So some students, they are really very timid, and it's very scary for them to see you for the first time. So they would have gathered a lot of courage to see you. And so probably they will take some time to get warm up. So just let them have a few minutes and wait to see if they have any questions. I remember one advisee told me that he met his faculty academic advisor the first time. His advisor was super nice, and he shared with the students a lot about his research, and he spoke for almost half an hour. Actually, my advisor told me he didn't understand a bit, but then he left without asking his questions. So my advice is that, yeah, friendly, show your enthusiasm, but give time for your students to ask the question. Okay, so fourthly, listen and address their question first. So if you listen to your students, they will feel that you pay attention to them. And I found that this is a very good way to engage them. And fifthly, okay, you can start them thinking about the goal and plan. Okay, so maybe they thought it's too early for them to start thinking about their goal, and they may be reluctant to make plan. However, do ask them the question and guide them and inspire them to start thinking what they really want to get from their university study. Okay, so next, challenge them to step out of their comfort zone. Okay, now don't pamper them. Okay, so if they are being over reliant on you, okay, make sure that you get them start working. Okay, next slide. Okay, so my next tips is to gauge their knowledge of the curriculum requirement and campus resources first. Okay, do not tell them. Okay, see how much they know. So if they have no idea, then maybe it's a good idea for you to guide them to look for the information together. But at the same time, I think having those knowledge yourself is also a good idea. So, so be an informed advisor is something that we should always aim to achieve. Okay, so check what action they will take before concluding. Now, this is a very interesting thing. It's because every time before I end my session, I will ask them, okay, what are you going to do? And many times they sort of surprise me because the action that they will be taking is very often more than and even better than what we have discussed. And also, I think it will encourage the ownership of their study. So it will encourage them to take a positive and constructive action to help themselves with their study. Okay, and help them build support network. Now, they will ask questions, okay, definitely, that you have no idea about. Don't worry, that is very normal. That happens to me too. So you do not work alone. So you could either refer them to the TAA, FAA, CEDARS, campus resources. You can refer them to AAO, and we can advise them on university regulations, study plan, and major and minors beyond your faculty. Okay, and next, okay, invite them to stay in touch. Okay, so you can show them that you will be there to support them. So when they really are in trouble, or if really need help desperately, they can contact you and to have your support. Okay, so now, so this is what I've planned. Now let's go back to the experience sharing from Matthias. Okay, now I think I better stop now, and then I would like to invite Matthias, okay, to share with us his experience as faculty academic advisors in the past 10 years. Okay, it's over to you. Next.
Okay, thank you very much, Rachel, and also thanks a lot for the invitation to be here. It's really great to see also so many other colleagues here. And yeah, so a little bit of background about myself. So I've been at HKU since 2010. And so I think I was probably among the first who joined the academic advising scheme. So I recently looked up like how long have I been doing this. I figured out, okay, must have been around 10 years. So I'm happy that to hear that my calculation is correct, and indeed it has been around for 10 years. Yeah, so basically I have a couple of things. I have basically 5 points I would like to go through. And but before that, I just want to have a quick sharing, like basically from the other colleagues who are here. So is my understanding that correct? Is my understanding correct that most of you are relatively new to academic advising, or are you more like more like, would you consider yourself more experienced? So maybe you can share raise the hand if you would consider yourself to be more experienced, however you want to define that. Yeah. Okay, so I see 2 so far, 3. Okay, cool. So that means I think so thank you. You can lower the hand again. So that means most of you are probably quite new to academic advising, and that's great because I think that's probably where I can maybe do, help the most based on my experience. And so the first point, I want to kind of follow up on what Rachel mentioned before, that some students they come to you very frequently and they have a lot of questions, while on the other hand, some other students they might just show up relatively infrequently, or maybe sometimes they don't show up at all. And so my experience has been more consistent with the latter one, that there are not too many students showing up for academic advising. Now that could have several reasons. So one reason is, I think that many students, at least the students that I have spoken to, they talk a lot with other students as well, like with their senior students and so on. And so I think that's a really excellent source of information and advice for the students, where they can really kind of gain the inside perspective, because of course, like another student maybe has just been through a similar experience before, maybe 1 year ago or so. So they can really share it from the student's experience. So I think the part of academic advising where there are also student advisors, like official student advisors, but also unofficially, they just talk with their senior students. I think that's an extremely valuable addition on top of what we can provide as the advisors, in terms of being colleagues here at HKU. Another thing is, I think also, so for me personally, so because I'm involved in the, so I'm at the Faculty of Business and Economics, or HKU Business School. And so I'm in charge of the program there, an undergraduate program. And so to this end, I actually meet a lot of the students who are in that program already through various program activities. So I think that's another very useful way to get in touch with them and kind of address many of the questions they might have at an early stage. So to this end, I think it's always useful to basically like if there are any problems, it's always better to address them early on rather than wait till later until they kind of snowball into something bigger. So if you have the chance to kind of connect with the students, at an early stage, in whatever capacity, so that might be officially in terms of academic advising, or it might be in other capacities. So I highly encourage everyone to make good use of these opportunities and get to know the students, because I think a lot of things can be already addressed and solved very early on. Okay, so that's basically the first thing I want to mention, to kind of encourage everybody to really kind of not just focus on the academic advising, which is extremely important, but also use all the other kind of ways you can interact with students throughout various events at your faculties and so forth. The second point I want to mention is that I think it's so kind of also building upon what Rachel mentioned before. I think what is very important is to listen to them, right? To listen to the students. So they will, I mean, they if they have any problems or any issues, they will come to you and they will talk to you. So I think I think it's extremely important to basically just take yourself a little bit back and talk so much, oh my, I'm doing this and that in my teaching, and do some other activities at HKU and whatever, but just listen to them and see what they have to say, and what they want from you in terms of academic advising. And I think related to that is also, I think oftentimes it's not so important exactly, like kind of what kind of words we use or how we express some things. I mean, that's obviously also very important, but I think what's even more important is kind of the energy that you bring to the conversation. So you basically want to have a mindset where you come to the to the talk with the students where you think, okay, like, number one, how can I help that student? And number two, to try to really figure out, okay, what is the issue of that student? Because oftentimes the issue that the issues that the students have, they might not be even directly aware of what their real problem is. Sometimes they think, oh, something is not right, something doesn't fit, but in fact, there's kind of like this kind of like a problem behind that, that they need to address, but they might or might not be aware of this kind of deeper rooted problem that they need to address. And so what they're seeing is maybe just some symptoms of these problems. So I think that's very important to kind of have the energy, to bring to the table where you say, okay, like, I really want to learn, I really want to understand what is the problem that this particular student has. So basically the opposite of saying, okay, I was assigned to be this academic advisor and I want to kind of do as little as possible. So that's kind of the wrong energy that you don't want to bring to that conversation. So I think that's also kind of important, like kind of on a meta level, like kind of like how on a high level, like how do we actually even approach the situation. Okay, so that's the second point. The third point is, again, kind of echoing also, or kind of building on what Rachel mentioned before, which is very important, namely the transition to the university. So the students, they come from secondary school. They are smart students. They have been successful in their studies so far in primary and secondary school. But then the transition and the switch to university life can be really, really different for them. So they, it's kind of like, my feeling is that many of them, once they join HKU, is kind of like they feel like they're in this huge kind of machine, that has so many levers and so many things going on at the same time, and so kind of their life gets so much more complicated than it was before. I mean, before they were they were working very hard, they were studying very hard and everything, but within the secondary school, they knew basically the system and they knew how everything worked and so on. But now all of a sudden they come to HKU, to university, and it's so different from what they have experienced before. And it's just overwhelming to them. So, they might have so many different questions about, let's say, second major, about their career. I mean, they're supposed to find out what they want to do with their life and their career, but they're just in their first year, so they have, most of them have really not, I mean, they haven't really figured it out what they really want. And I mean, that's quite normal, right? I mean, in the first year of university life, it's quite normal to still explore and look at different things and so on. But to them, of course, it might seem kind of overwhelming, this kind of big uncertainty and so on. Course selection, going on exchange, maybe in some later years, like what should they do to prepare, and all these kind of things. So there are lots of things going on where they really feel overwhelmed. And I think so when they come to us, I think it's kind of really important to calm them down a little bit, and to basicher kind of make them feel they are not alone, and there's like other students, they have gone through the same problems, they were also successful, and then basically find out like how, like for whatever specific problem they come to you with, how can you actually then provide some advice, some guidance, and some solutions that they could do. Related to that is also the GPA. So I often have a discussion with students about GPAs because when they just come, they just join HKU and they are still kind of in party mode or whatever, like, yeah, we finished high school and we finished secondary school and now we are grown up and we can explore the big world and so on. And that's all, that's all fine and good. But I think it's really important to kind of remind them that the GPA or the CGPA is extremely important. Maybe not in the first year, but then in the basically all the other years of their study. So they need to find internships or they need to whatever when they go on exchange. The GPA matters as well. And so basically, like for so many different areas in their study life and also later in their professional life, the GPA is very important. Now, of course, we all know that GPA is not everything. There are many other things that are important. Um, uh, but still, the GPA is one out of those many other important things. And I would say it's probably, it ranks somewhere near the top in terms of how it will influence their future life. Yeah, people can argue, is this a good thing or a bad thing? I'm not saying it's a good or bad either way, but I think it's just the way things work, at least for most of the business school students. For example, if somebody would have a GPA that is not very high, it might be quite difficult to even get invited into some interviews, right? So they won't even make it to the interview stage where they can show, what kind of great person they are and show all their other qualities. So therefore, I very early on, I tell them, like it or not, I'm not saying it's good or bad, but this is just how the world works in some way, at least for us, for the business school students, and I guess in other areas it might be very similar. So and I just tell them, it doesn't mean you have to kind of force yourself to have a high GPA, or it doesn't mean that you take some courses that are easier, to just kind of play games with your GPA and kind of make it higher and kind of give up on some of the other unique opportunity, like maybe taking some other course that you're really interested in, but that has a reputation of being difficult. I mean, by all means, go ahead, because if you're interested in something, even though it seems maybe difficult, you're more likely to excel and to get again, get a higher grade and get a higher GPA. So I think that this is very important to not to tell them, okay, like you have to have a high GPA. That's not what I'm talking about, but to kind of just tell them, like this is how the system works, and just to let them know that this is something they should consider among other things as well. So it's not the only thing, but it's one important thing. All right, so this is basically the third point, and the fourth point is basically to say that it's very important to set the students on the right path from the very beginning, because like there's so many choices they have to make in their first semester or in their first year. And I think so if somebody, I mean, of course, not all choices are kind of a disaster and you cannot recover from that. It's not like that, right? Like most choices, like you can recover if it's maybe not the right choice, and sometimes you might not even know what is the right choice. But basically, so the point is to prevent them from making like a bad choice that they cannot recover later from. Okay, so I think that's very important. And so I'm just gonna tell you a little story. So we have this orientation at the beginning of the academic year, with all the freshmen joining. So there was one student who approached me. We had a chat, and it turned later out he was actually my academic advisee. And at that point, I told him, my kind of story about, at least, try not to. I mean, you don't have to have the very best grades, but also as far as you can, try to avoid to have bad grades as far as possible, right? So it's like, oh yeah, sure, okay, yeah, all right, good. So that was like at the beginning of the semester. And this was a few years ago. And so, like it was maybe, I think, later this year or even beginning of next academic year, one of those. So I'm sitting in my office, and there's a knock on the door, and that student comes in as very timid, and it's like, oh, I have to ask you for some advice. And I was like, yeah, sure. How can I help you? And he said, yeah, I basically did the opposite of what you told me. and and so he had like a not just like a B or a C, but for some reason he got a D in one of his courses. So it was like he was really kind of in he was kind of struggling with the situation. um, and of course, then he was still at the very beginning of his studies, so I could still kind of encourage him, because it's just one part of of his performance, and he still has a lot of chances to improve later on and so on. So it's not the end of the world, right? But I think I kind of want to use this example to kind of show that it's really important for students to try to get on the right path from the beginning, so they don't have these kind of regrets later on, like this student. Yeah, and again, this is not just about GPA. Basically, I'm just using it as an example. There can be many other things as well. There are many other things that are important as well. But the point remains to help them to kind of get on the right path from the beginning, to kind of avoid like some major mistakes that they could make, and that could cause a lot of regret for them later on down the road. Okay, and the last point I want to mention is that sometimes the students they have they come to you with some kind of problems that you might not be very well equipped to solve. For example, if they have some questions about some kind of very detailed administrative procedure, like are they allowed to take this course after having taken this other course, or these kind of things. So for these kind of questions, I think I would just encourage everyone to refer the students to the appropriate place who can give them an authoritative answer. For example, within the faculty or at the HKU level, university level. Or let's say if they have some kind of whatever, like psychological problems or something like that, you can refer them to CDARs, where there's like some professionals, who really are, they know how to address these kind of problems much better than we might be able to. So I think in general, like basically, if there is anything that you don't feel like you're competent or comfortable dealing with, that's totally fine. It's fine to say, okay, I don't know, I'm not equipped to deal with that, and then refer them to whoever at HKU is could help them with. So I think that's also very important. Yeah. All right, that's all from my side. Thank you very much.
Okay, thank you so much, Matt. And so I think, do you have 1 or 2 minutes to take questions?
Oh yeah, sure. About like 5 minutes is fine.
Okay, good. Okay, so if the audience got some questions, feel free to post them in the chat box. Okay, so we have one from Victor.
Okay.
Let's see.
Oh, if somebody doesn't respond, well, there's not much you can do, right? Yeah. So that happens, and I think like many of these students, they found other ways to solve their problems. Maybe they have talked with the senior student or whoever, and that's fine. If they don't reply, I mean, I think there's not much we can do. Maybe send a reminder email or something like that. But if they don't reply, that's, as far as I know, that's their choice. So we don't force them or so to contact us and make use of this academic advising services. Yeah. Do you meet with students over Zoom or in person? Is one better? Well, so originally I met in person, but then because of the pandemic, I was meeting sometimes with on Zoom, but I think both ways are fine. I personally prefer in person, but you know, both ways are fine. I think Zoom is it's pretty convenient to talk with people and so on as well. So whatever you feel more comfortable or the student feels more comfortable with. Yeah. Okay. Do you find it more useful to meet the students in groups than what? Yeah. Well, so I usually meet them one-on-one. But if you, I mean, groups is also fine. The thing is with groups is they sometimes they might not open up to you so much because you know they have all their peers around them, and so they you know, if they have like a specific problem they want to talk with you about, then you know, they might prefer to do it one-to-one. So I think it depends also kind of what kind of topics you want to talk with them about.
Okay.
Okay, Victor. And by the way, feel free to use the microphone as well if somebody prefers. I mean, chatting is fine as well. Chat window. Yeah. Yeah, I think probably if these are questions that you can't answer or don't feel, you know, confident to answer, then, you know, I think it's better to refer them to the, you know, faculty office or whoever can answer these questions, because the thing is, you know, even if you had a similar case in the past, where you found out, okay, well, this is the current regulation, and, you know, you tell the student, okay, this is what they should do, but, you know, maybe there was a change in regulation or whatever, so something that you might not be aware of. So it's always better to send them to the, like, for these kind of more like course selection and prerequisites and these kind of questions, to send them to the for example, to the faculty office, where there's somebody who can give them a definitive answer.
Yeah, I totally agree. But for like question for major transfer or change in major or minors, I guess while we do not always have the information on hand for them, we could ask, maybe have a discussion with them, the reason why they want to transfer the program, and see if it's something that they think is a wise decision. So maybe we could help them in that aspect, and leave the procedural things and requirement things to the administrators who may be more knowledgeable to give them a good answer. Okay.
Yes, for sure. I totally agree. Yes. So basically, like for questions such as, you know, like, okay, what are your interests and what kind of second major would suit your interests or your personality and so on. For sure, like these are reasons where we could and we should give them advice. Yes, for sure.
Yeah, and about the not responding, actually later on, my colleague Nelson will be showing you the features in the SIS system. So if you have this student who you send the invitation maybe for 3 times and have absolutely no response, and you have got a little bit worried, you can press the button, no response, and then we will see that on our page, the interface, and then we will try to contact the students, or maybe let the faculty know in case something happened to the students that we might be able to help with. Okay.
Yeah, that's very important. Please remember to click no respond in the system if they don't respond. Yeah.
Right. Okay, good. So Matthias, before I let you go, actually we have one question from the audience that I would like you to help, which is the number 1, how to handle students who insist on things that cannot be approved. So I guess you have met a lot of students like that, right?
Some, yeah. I think the thing is that sometimes the students, they think, well, you know, like this, like we can, you know, like it. Basically, I think it can be approved. We just don't want to approve it. Okay, so that's sometimes what they think, but in fact, we actually cannot approve it according to the regulations. So yeah, I mean, I think there's, you know, we just can, you know, we just have to tell them, okay, like these are the regulations, these are the rules, and we all have to follow them. So maybe point them to the regulation where it's actually written down so that they can check it for themselves and verify. Yeah. So, but other than that, I think that's probably the best we can do. So, I mean, we're not supposed to break the rules, you know, for the students, right? Because it would be bad for the students as well if they, you know, if they get something that they're not supposed to get, and later on they might get into even more trouble, right? So, so we should follow the regulations and follow the guidelines.
Okay. Thank you very much, Matt. And
thank you, Rachel.
yeah, thank you for your time coming this morning and share with us. And so for the other question, I guess I will try to handle them. So actually, there are two more questions that we received from the registrants before this workshop. One is that how to encourage students to ask questions via the academic advising system. Here, my simple answer is that we try to provide academic advising channel using the preferred communication mode. I think this would make the best sense. So for AAO, you can ask the students to WhatsApp us if they have a questions that is more of a general nature. So later on we will give you the advice, the WhatsApp number. And for student advisors, we have this open discussion forum at Moodle. So we piloted the system last year. It was very successful. So we are promoting this to the new student this year. So if you are interested, later on Nelson will share with you how it looks like. And for faculty academic advisors, actually we have discovered that you can use Zoom or Microsoft Teams for some instant messaging tools. And if you need a instruction, there is a QR code there, and you can just take a look. Okay, so what are the common concerns of students and how to tackle? Now, I have just prepared a little bit because we don't have a lot of time today, but maybe I'll just quickly go over them quickly. So now from our last year's survey, the top concern from students is mainly, as Matt said, exchange, internship, academic planning, and major minor selection, academic performance, etc. And in fact, we have developed some study planning tools, which I would like to introduce them to you now. So for example, in the next slide, you will see in the next slide. Okay, this is my study abroad plan. Okay, actually we have put together the questions students often ask, and then we have structured them into a planning sheet, which you could use to guide your students. So you can download the QR code from the slide, and then you can use it to guide your students. So similarly, we have also developed a plan for planning your internship. So this is my internship plan. There are also a step-by-step guidance and questions that you can ask your students to make their own internship plan. And the next one is about academic planning sheet. Now, this is a very simple sheet, but a student told us that it's very useful because it helped them organize and they can see how much time they still have, so they don't need to rush to finish everything in 1 year. So we have academic planning sheet for the typical 4-year program, the BA Science program, the double degree program, as well as for students who are admitted into senior years. So because their requirements are slightly different, right? So here's also a QR code that you can scan. Now, academic performance. Now, we have this SOAP approach, the SOAP, okay, which is, I personally find it quite useful. It's like subjective, stand for S, objective, stand for O, which is you need to note the incidents and fact, and A stand for assess, you need to diagnose the cause. So as Matt says, sometimes don't just look at the symptoms, you have to help the students find what is exactly the underlying cause. So, so it could be skill, if it is not skill, is it because of the will, whether it's motivation or not, If it's not motivation, is it about study strategies that they're having problem with? Or are there any other interference which are non-academic in nature? And then make a plan. Okay, so here is a QR code again. So you can scan and download the worksheet. If you have any question or if you have any comments, you can send me an email later on.